of Afghanistan, and your commander-in-chief has now humiliated this entire country and is being bullied into submission by the terrorists, the Taliban.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. I can tell you there's no way we can humanly get all of our American citizens and Afghan partners out of country by that time.
It sounds like you're still working on an August 31st deadline.
We are absolutely still aiming towards the end.
Future American soldiers have to go back in to deal with the problem and deal with the incompetence of this administration. How many are going to die?
Either he's senile or he's in denial. But either way, it's reckless for our country, and this disaster is taking place. It's his responsibility.
Why can't you just say the number?
Barbara, I think we're just going to leave it at several thousand right now, and I understand that's not a satisfying answer to you.
It's sickening. I can't believe this is happening in our country today.
And particularly after the decision made today and what we heard today, he will have blood on his hands.
Americans held hostage behind enemy lines. Day 10.
All right, we are now day 10 of Americans held hostage, trapped behind enemy lines, and clearly President Biden, he's letting the Taliban call all the shots. He will not commit to keeping U.S. forces past the Taliban's August 31st deadline. He will not commit to ensuring the rescue of all of our citizens and our Afghan partners that we promised we would get out if this day ever came. He has no idea how many Americans or how many of our allies are still trapped in Kabul, controlled by the Taliban or elsewhere in the country. He doesn't know exactly how many Americans have already even been evacuated. And now Fox News is reporting that the U.S. military has started withdrawing from Afghanistan. So today, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul issued an alert. It was later deleted about 30 minutes later, calling on all Americans to leave Afghanistan or they are on their own. Your government. Wow. Just get to the airport, they say. Use your best judgment, they say. Trust that the terrorists, the Taliban, will ensure your safe passage. We've reported for more than a week. They're also saying there is no safe passage. Watch with your own eyes.
We are stranded at home. We can't get to the airport. When we try to get to the airport, we get beaten up or we are afraid for our lives. Taliban are going door to door looking for people who has worked with the U.S. government, of course, for the U.S. citizens. So our lives are in extreme danger. We get more of news to stay put than to be told that you're going to be evacuated. This is not comforting at all because we don't know if we're going to make it out.
That was a fellow American citizen, now hopelessly trapped behind enemy lines, ostensibly a hostage to the goodwill of the terrorist group, the Taliban. The airport is completely encircled. They have covered the entire perimeter, the Taliban. They control who gets in, they control who gets out. And now the Taliban is apparently saying they're blocking all access to the airport for any Afghan citizens. That means people that may have helped us the last 20 years. Biden, he just signed the death certificates of every Afghan that, in fact, has helped the U.S. in the last 20 years. And apparently they even have access to computer data so that these people will be hunted down. They will be murdered. Their families will be murdered. Joe apparently today seemed to care less. Today, in what was a tone-deaf speech delivered over 4 hours late, Biden spoke about infrastructure and voting rights and then eventually got around to the crisis that is Afghanistan. But, of course, took no questions. After all, he may get yelled at. He doesn't want to get in trouble. A slight improvement over last Wednesday when he refused to address Afghanistan at all. And that was a speech about vaccine boosters. Biden is living in an alternate reality tonight, and so is his clueless press secretary, because today, Jen Psaki referred to the ongoing evacuation in Kabul as a huge success. But the people on the ground in Kabul beg to differ. Jen, you might want to watch, circle back, and learn. Take a look.
I would say that that this is now on track, Peter, to be the largest airlift in U.S. history.
I am sure that if they capture me, they will kill me. Like me, there are 100 people. This is called the wrong policy of the United States.
When I went there, they were just whipping people left and right, so I got whipped and I got really scared. I came back.
Bringing American citizens out, it is bringing our Afghan partners out, it is bringing allies out.
I worked half of my life with the U.S. and now they left me behind.
I served basically 1/3 of my life with the U.S. government, and now I'm not even able to save my own family, my own blood.
So no, I would not say that is anything but a success.
I'm an American. Rescue me. Evacuate me. Take me home.
So that's how Jen and Biden's defined success. More than 20 people have died during this so-called evacuation that we know of. Countless others have been brutally beaten by Taliban fighters. Women, children have been gassed, they've been whipped, they've been stabbed. Many evacuees have been forced to pay tens of thousands of dollars to hire private military contractors to escort them to the airport. And just yesterday, Jen Psaki angrily claimed that it was irresponsible to say Americans are stranded in Afghanistan. But just 24 hours later, she said that, of course, some Americans will be left behind after the August 31st deadline. You've got to be kidding. We're going to leave Americans behind? You decide.
Most of the criticism is not of leaving Afghanistan. It's the way that he has ordered it to happen by pulling the troops before getting these Americans who are now stranded. Does he have a sense of that?
First of all, I think it's irresponsible to say Americans are stranded. They are not.
If one U.S. citizen was suddenly discovered, saying, hey, I really want to get out and I'm stuck, who knows where, somewhere in Afghanistan or in Kabul, he's got any problem, would this trigger a diplomatic, military, all hands on deck type thing to get that person out, whatever the date?
Our commitment continues to be to U.S. citizens. If they want to leave, we will help get them out.
No matter what the date.
Again, we expect there could be some.
That's being stranded. That was aired on the Fox News channel. That woman that we just played, Jen, sadly just one of many. But we trust that the Taliban will give you safe passage. Then they said, don't come to the airport on Saturday. It's too dangerous. Now, apparently, anyone who is not out by August 31st, you are on your own. Maybe the worst part of all is we could have easily prevented all of this chaos and all of this carnage. In April, Joe Biden announced that he would draw down all American troops during peak Taliban fighting season in the summer. Now, why so? Why? Do you want to do a victory lap? I don't know, on September 11th? I have no earthly idea, Joe. In May, we saw the Taliban offensive beginning. Look at this timeline. Pay close attention. It could have and should have been stopped then. Dead then. By June, the fighting was taking place in 20 of the 34 provinces throughout the country. Joe Biden ignored it all. By July, the Taliban controlled a large portion of Afghanistan and was picking up steam, and Joe was telling forces were. Second, U.S. forces, the dumbest decision up to speed, up to that point, withdrew from Bagram Airfield, leaving Kabul, our embassy, and thousands of Americans totally, completely defenseless against the Taliban invasion. And still they didn't get them out. By August 1st, the Afghan army was in tatters. The Taliban was closing in on Kabul. Joe Biden did not reverse course. He stayed on vacation. He never was able to retake Bagram Airport base. He did not create a perimeter around key U.S. assets. He did not secure or destroy the billions and billions and billions of dollars of military equipment and Black Hawk helicopters that he left behind. That was short-sighted. That was pretty dumb. There was no plan ever in place whatsoever. And 2 weeks later, the Taliban then marched right to the center of Kabul. Biden still did nothing except stay on vacation. And since then, let's see, the Dutch, the French, the British, well, they've sent troops behind enemy lines into Kabul to extract their citizens with their special forces and their paratroopers. And our military is under strict orders not to leave the airport. Americans were left to fend for themselves. But the Dutch protected their citizens. Their troops went behind enemy lines, the French, the British, but not American troops. This is utter humiliation on the world stage, and worse, thousands of Americans and thousands of our friends and allies, they're likely to be murdered soon by the Taliban that now is in full control. In fact, some are already being tortured, some are already being murdered. Even Obama's Homeland Security Secretary, Jay Johnson, honestly warning that the situation in Kabul will get a lot worse before it ever gets better. Now Joe Biden needs to grow his spine, answer some basic, pivotal, important questions. He needs to be honest for a change and cut the crap with the spin with Jen Psaki. Joe, will you ensure that every American is out before you leave Afghanistan? Why would you leave one American behind, Joe? Will you pledge not to leave a single American behind? Do we have special forces on the ground who are you willing to send them to rescue American citizens that are telling the news media they can't get to the airport? Will you commit to extracting our Afghan partners who we promised to get out if this day ever came, and you said last week you would get out? And for all the refugees who are rescued, what is being done to vet them? We want specifics. In other words, so we don't have a member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or ISIS-K sneaking into our country and bringing harm to Americans here. And the most important question is this, Joe. Why didn't you evacuate Americans in May, in June, and July, watching and knowing the Taliban was taking the entire country in record time? There's zero excuse for that. There is no good answer. You failed in what is a surrender. But tonight, let me be clear. Senator, we played it in our opening monologue. In this map is the timeline of the Taliban on the march. As you can see, April of 2021, May of 2021, the red that fills up this map, now June and July of 2021. The Taliban was on the march the whole time, Senator. You saw it. Intel members saw it. Joe Biden had to be told. I understand the CIA pulled their people out 6 weeks ago, Senator. Why did Joe wait till the last minute?
Yeah. When history looks back at this moment, and it's going to look back at this moment, this is going to be a big deal for decades. This is going to be covered as one of the worst catastrophes in American foreign policy history for two reasons. Number one is everything you just said right now, the failure of this administration to anticipate what they should have known. What the red lights were flashing the whole time, that the Taliban was moving faster than they were talking about, and the whole time they were oblivious to it, it seemed. And then the botching of this evacuation of this entire process. This is the way the process should have worked, okay? What Joe Biden should have said is, we have these people, and we have this equipment, and we're going to get it out of Afghanistan, and we'll leave once we have all that stuff. And anyone who gets in the way, including the Taliban, who tries to stop us, is going to be killed. You will die if you get in our way. Not August 31st, not September 1st, not August 29th, not a date, a goal. The goal is we're going to get out the Americans, we're going to get out the people that work for us, and we're not going to leave the Taliban an Air Force. We just donated an Air Force to the Taliban.
Two factors. I keep showing this map with the dates of the Taliban on the march, and Joe Biden did nothing. That's point number one. Point number two is Joe Biden is abiding by the Taliban's deadline. Now, I think, like you, that the deadline ought to be when every American and every ally is out. The French, the Brits, the Dutch, they have sent their troops behind enemy lines to rescue their citizens. Why hasn't the most powerful military force on the face of the earth done the same, Senator? Because I'm looking at a countdown clock of 6 days, 18 hours, 9 minutes, and 3 seconds, and they're out. According to that's the Taliban's deadline and Joe's deadline, apparently.
But that's not even the deadline. That's the deadline for the last plane to take off. The true deadline is probably Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Look, it took from April to, I believe, June or July to get 1,500 people out. Okay, August 31st is not like August 31st is the last day there'll be any American on the ground in terms of uniform. So the real deadline is actually this week. It's not the 31st. But that's when you get with a White House that's incompetent, a president who seems, quite frankly, oblivious to all of this. The lies,
Senator,
they stand
you're saying Americans are going to be left behind? We're going to leave our fellow Americans behind?
Well, I don't think there's any. Listen, they're already leaving now, okay? The troops are already being downgraded now because you can't just put 6,000 troops and everybody on one big plane. It's not Noah's Ark where you're going to put everybody on there and get them out at the one time, okay? So the true deadline's not the 31st, and they stand there every single day and they lie to people. You talk to people that are on the ground in there, that airport is chaos. Total, complete chaos. Unsanitary conditions, rapidly declining, and these people are all happy. Oh, this is the most successful, rescue in history. These people, they're out of their minds. This is what you get when a president is completely out of touch with reality. And then we have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who spends this time worried about white rage. Don't worry about white rage, General Milley. Worry about the Taliban and the Americans who are going to be killed by them because of your botched efforts now and ongoing.
I have no words. For the first time in my life, I can't even respond to that. Senator, thank you, and God help our fellow Americans. They need prayers tonight. When we come back, Ollie North reacts to Jen Psaki, what we see happening on the ground, what options remain at this last hour, plus you won't believe the truly bizarre statements Kamala Harris just made. We got the tape, reaction, Lindsey Graham weighs in. When we return, busy breaking news night on Hannity. Thank you for being with us.
Somewhere in Afghanistan or in Kabul, has got any problem. Would this trigger a diplomatic, military, all hands on deck type thing to get that person out, whatever the date?
Our commitment continues to be to U.S. citizens. If they want to leave, we will help get them out.
No matter what date.
Again, we expect there could be some.
Could be some left. Psaki earlier today admitting some Americans could be left after August 31st. Wow. Here with reaction, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Colonel, I'll let you walk through what every option now is horrible. I showed the map, I showed the timeline, I showed the Taliban on the march. We missed all those chances. What do we do now?
Okay. Well, we haven't completely missed it. We still have a limited number of U.S. troops on the ground. We have the artificial deadline established by the Taliban. And what we ought to be doing this moment forward is bring in additional troops to carry out the mission. Tell the Taliban we're going to stay as long as necessary. Al-Qaeda or ISIS terrorists harm anybody, that we are going to decapitate your leadership. And we could do it with one bomb on the presidential palace. Number two, the U.S. military needs to be authorized to carry out rescue and recovery operations anywhere in Afghanistan. There's nearly a dozen U.S.-built airfields in Afghanistan. Any one or more of these ought to be open to put under U.S. military control. And he mentioned again today this crazy idea that we're going to have over-the-horizon capability to deal with terrorism. You cannot do that without a search and recovery base from which you can rescue downed U.S. airmen. Reality has to intervene at some point. The only good news in all of this is that the internal Afghan resistance, they're now calling themselves the Afghan National Front, has formed in the Panjshir Valley. It's led by Afghan Vice President Amrullah Saleh, Ahmad Massoud, and General Zia, who I will be on the phone with again here in just a few minutes when you and I finish. They are rapidly building a significant force of resistance fighters, most of them special operations guys who are delivering their own Humvees and aircraft next door to Tajikistan and in the northern area of the Panjshir Valley. And what they're looking for is the following. Everybody pay attention to this. What they need is humanitarian assistance. Humanitarian assistance in the form of food, fuel, and medical supplies. They're asking desperately for COVID vaccine or at least some prophylaxis of some kind to help those who are testing positive. And what we've done this before, Sean. We did it in Operation Provide Comfort in the 1990s for the Kurds. There's a lot of other ways to enhance a resistance organization. I know a little bit about that. But the bottom line of it is we ought to be helping them right now with humanitarian help. And I'm hoping that we're going to have that set up in the next 24 to 48 hours. President Biden also ought to immediately communicate directly with President Xi Jinping in Beijing that the People's Republic of China intelligence officers now working with the Taliban with the help of Pakistan must desist, or the U.S. government will impose additional economic sanctions on China. Same message also ought to be delivered to Moscow, Islamabad, and Tehran. Number 5, immediately lift the hold on the weapons for which the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, Taiwan, Japan, and Israel have already paid. This will show our allies that we're still capable of carrying out a strategic vision for our future. And the final item is close the U.S. southern border immediately to prevent terrorism from entering the United States, because we now have the most vicious terrorist force in the history of mankind, not in the old ISIS, but in what's happening right now in Afghanistan. This president ought to carry out these duties, do a presidential finding so we can help. With humanitarian support is all they're asking for up north. That's the only bright picture in all of what's happened.
He needs to listen to you, Colonel. That's the best plan we have, considering we missed our opportunities in May, June, and July, knowing they were on the march. We appreciate you, Colonel. Thank you. All right, now more questions tonight surrounding the behavior of Vice President Harris. She continues to embarrass America on the world stage. So far, she's refused to show any sense of urgency in helping any of these Americans and allies trapped behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, just laughing it all off last week. And what she's doing instead, well, she's sounding out the alarm about Christmas shopping. I didn't make this up. This is not taken out of context. Take a look.
The stories that we are now hearing about the caution that if you want to have Christmas toys for your children, it might be the time to start buying them, because the delay may be many, many months. So across the board, people are experiencing the issue.
Our fellow Americans are stranded, trapped behind enemy lines, hostage to the whims of the terrorist group, the Taliban. Where are the priorities of the Biden-Harris White House? Now, meanwhile, we're learning that Harris's plane from Singapore was delayed over a possible Havana syndrome incident in Hanoi, but we're told the vice president remains in good health and will be in Vietnam tomorrow. Wow, can make a lot of comparisons. Here with reaction, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, two big questions I have tonight, and there really are two. One, how is it possible, I keep showing this map, that we had all the Taliban on the march, May, June, July, taking bigger and bigger geographical portions of the country. We did nothing. That's question one. How did we let that happen? Question two is more immediate. That is Joe Biden, this artificial deadline, and the possibility of leaving Americans behind.
Well, number one, you got the Vice President of the United States talking about what you should do for Christmas in the middle of the biggest blunder since 9/11. You know, ISIS and Al-Qaeda have got to be licking their chops after hearing this. What happened here? Biden made a political decision to get everybody, all the troops out by September the 11th. He didn't care about those who helped us. He didn't think through how to get the American citizens out first. He had a political goal, and when the Taliban were advancing, he didn't realize this puts everything into a chaotic environment. As to what to do next, it's over. It is over. Joe Biden has made up his mind. He's capitulated to the Taliban. Everything that Ollie North said is right, we should do. But we now left thousands of people behind, and we're setting the stage for another 9/11. Joe Biden created a perfect storm to abandon those who helped us and create another 9/11 for this country. You know what I'm worried about in Christmas? I'm worried about an Al-Qaeda or ISIS attack against the United States coming from Afghanistan. That's what I'm worried about this Christmas.
All right, I'm worried about that too. Are you saying, Senator, that Joe Biden is saying, acknowledging in Jen Psaki's comments today, that we are going to leave Americans behind in Afghanistan, that we are going to, Joe Biden was basically going to sign the death sentences for the allies, that we now know they have the database, the names of any Afghans that helped us, and we had promised we'd get them out of there, not necessarily bring them here, but get them the hell out of there? You're saying that that's going to be the reality? That's it? He gets away with that?
I'm saying I don't think he's going to get away with it politically. I think there'll be an uprising at home. It's the most dishonorable thing a commander-in-chief has done in modern times. What he has said today is that he is going to leave 31 August because the Taliban told him he had to get out. There's no way in hell we get all the American citizens out. We're going to leave thousands of Afghans who fought along our side behind, and we're setting the table for the rise of Al-Qaeda and ISIS to attack us down the road. The ISIS fighters, Sean, have doubled in the last 10 days. The jailbreak led to thousands of ISIS fighters in jail now on the battlefield. So, yeah, what I'm telling you, it is over. That President Biden has signed the death warrant for thousands of Afghans who helped us. He's washing his hands of Afghanistan at our peril as a nation.
Do you have any doubt Americans at this hour will be left behind?
Listen, I've got 200 active cases in my office right now. 10 of them are American citizens. There's no way we get them all out. Marco is right. The operation really ends this weekend. By 31 August, we're going to have all of our troops out. How do you get to Kabul under these circumstances? The Taliban are not waving you through. So, there's no way we get all the American citizens out, and there's no way we avoid leaving tens of thousands of Afghans behind.
Senator, we impeached Donald Trump over a phone call with Ukraine. Is that not an impeachable offense? Is this not rise to the level of dereliction of duty, abandoning Americans in a foreign country, not getting them out when you had control of Kabul in May, June, July, not doing the right thing, getting them out, knowing they're on the march? There's no consequences for that except politically?
He should be impeached. This is dereliction of duty by the commander-in-chief. This makes it harder to fight future wars. Who's going to help us in the future after we abandon our friends in Afghanistan who fought bravely? And the likelihood of a 9/11 is through the roof now because Al-Qaeda and ISIS are coming after us. If you believe we left Afghanistan, we've ended the war between the U.S. and radical Islam, you're a fool. They're coming after us, and Joe Biden has left us naked and blind in Afghanistan.
Yeah, few mean tweets don't seem so bad now, do they? Senator, thank you. Our own Sarah Carter has exclusive details about one American still trying to escape Afghanistan. We'll get a full update, breakdown. We'll get reaction also from Pete Hegseth. And what does this mean for the future of women in Afghanistan? Straight ahead. Side of Afghanistan, Sarah Carter, she's reported there often. She has exclusive details. One American woman trying to escape. She joins us now along with Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth. I know that you've been trying and in contact with hundreds of people, actually, Sarah, that you've gotten to know over the years. Are they getting out or are they trapped?
Many of them are trapped, Sean. I was grateful enough that we got one family out that my husband and I will be sponsoring in the United States, somebody who I consider family. I want to thank Congressman Mike Garcia out of California, Charles Navarro, and Senator Cotton for all the great work that they've been doing. But let me tell you what's happening on the ground right now. Right now, there are Americans with passports that cannot get to the airport. There are Americans who are being asked to leave behind their families, like the woman that I spoke with, who's been on an emotional roller coaster. I've been on the phone with her for 3 days now, trying to get her out. And they told her, well, we could send somebody and we could get you out, but you have to leave your husband behind. And you know what she said to me? She called me back. She said, tell them to stand down. I will not leave my husband behind. I will not leave my family behind. Maybe the President of the United States has forgotten us Americans and is leaving us behind, but I will not do that. Sean, I got to tell you, that is a true American. That is someone that should be here. That is someone that the President should be listening to. She is sending out a plea to the President tonight through me, saying, Mr. President, please do not leave Americans behind. Do not forget us. There are children there. They've had the Taliban on their tail. They have been literally running from house to house, Sean. I can't tell you how many hundreds have been doing this. I know for a fact, speaking to former CIA officers who are in contact with me right now, there are Americans with passports that were literally turned away from the gates at the airport. And those that made it out, some of those that made it out, like my friend, that are in Doha right now, have said that they've gone from one hell to another. They are pleading with the administration. They will be executed. If you do not get them out, Americans will die, and they say the blood will be on President Biden's hands.
You know, Pete Hegseth, I've been doing radio 33 years, here on Fox 25 years. I never, ever thought in my lifetime an American president would give in to a terrorist deadline and leave Americans behind and leave our allies behind. But it appears that's what we're headed towards. It appears that's what Biden's locked into.
That's exactly what has happened. What Sarah just lined out is precisely correct. Jen Psaki today said, if you've got a phone number of a citizen or someone that can't get out, tell me. I got a phone full of phone numbers. And I'll tell you, every other vet in America who served in Afghanistan has a phone full of phone numbers of people who we've been coordinating with and working with and trying to get to a gate, or that gate's closed. No, this gate. No, the gates are all closed. No, the Taliban have beaten their families and their wives and their kids, and no one is there for them. All they're talking about is the numbers or the Taliban deadline. Any person who's not in the Kabul airport right now, Sean, is currently a hostage of the Taliban. You started that 10 days of hostages. These doors are closing. Joe Biden said we're gone. And if you're left, tough luck. You maybe have a day or two still to try to get through. U.S. citizens are amongst them. Our Afghan allies are amongst them. And the unsung heroes, and we're going to do more on this network, are the network of vets who are reaching out to the men they served with, the people they know in Afghanistan, citizens and allies, and fighting every minute to get them through the small doors of those gates, because Joe Biden won't do anything for them. He's turned his back on them. The Taliban controls them, and anyone left behind, let's not mince words, any citizen or SIV holder, ally of ours, who's left behind, they are dead. Their throats will be slit. The Taliban will hunt them down, and that is on America and our commitment to them.
Pete is 100% right, Sean. I've been getting text messages in my phone from Afghanistan while we've been sitting here, people standing at the gates that are not being allowed in. This is a crime. It's a crime against the American people, and it's a crime against our veterans.
God help all of them. I can't believe them. This is what he's done. All right, thank you both. When we come back, women across Afghanistan, oh yeah, their future, dark, grim. The reality of Taliban rule is unfolding before their eyes. It is a nightmare as Joe Biden abandons Americans and our allies. Laura Trump, Morgan Ortega's next as we continue.